Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I have my completed Boston travel journal here, and so I wanted to pop on and show you a little flip through of it. I'll probably just walk you through it because it's a small journal. Like, it's very chunky because I filled it up to the max, but it's a very small journal, and so I'm just going to walk you through. I will leave the kind of pre-setup and like the kit video up in the cards and description box down below if you want to check it out when it was like first made and not filled up and everything like that. So I will leave that link below. And yeah, so this is my journal. You can see here that the one signature got really stuffed. Like, it is very stuffed with things, and like I mentioned before in my like setup video and like when I showed you my travel kit, I wanted to treat this sort of like an art journal type travel journal. I'm not sure if I did that, but I still really like how it turned out. And so my title page here says Boston, and then I use these alphas that say November and then the 2nd through the 6th because that's when I was away. And then we get to the first day, which was the travel day. And each day I just kind of marked it off by Tuesday. I didn't actually like stamp the date or anything like that. I just put the date of the week. And yeah, a lot of journaling, just a lot of journaling. I did take my Instax camera, and so I tried to include just photographs directly from that camera, but of course when I came home I had some great photographs that I took with my actual camera that I just kind of printed out in like a Polaroid style so that it matched the theme, and I did include those in the back. And so, because not all the time do the Polaroids come out very well, like using the camera. There were some that didn't turn out very well that I had to end up replacing with photographs that I actually took on my camera and printed it out when I got home. And so it was fine. I don't mind that. I still think the journal came out really great. I did do some sketching and painting and stuff. I tried to do that because the whole point of this trip was to go on like sort of an extended artist date. I did end up just taking a lot of photographs. That usually is what I tend to do more, but I was trying to be very diligent and like sit down and sketch stuff. So Boston has all the lampposts that look like this. It's very European, and so I had to like draw one. This one is from I was in the North End of Boston, and then I just put this little clipping from a Daphne's diary there. This is one of the pockets that I made. I have a video on how I made these little library card pockets, but I just kind of put all of my receipts to like either stores or mostly places that I ate at, and I kind of put them in here to remember them by because I would forget to get business cards, and so that's that. And this is Wednesday again. Tuesday was very short because most of it was travel day on Amtrak, and then I did walk around mostly the North End because that's where my hotel was. But Wednesday is when I did like most of my walking and exploring. And so of course I have journaling, and there's a lot of journaling in this journal because I tend to journal a lot when I travel. And so it wouldn't be a journal if it wasn't like actually journaling in it. This is the famous Acorn Street. I think that's what it's called, Acorn Street. So I put a little squirrel there, and squirrels show up a lot in this. I swear the squirrels in Boston are so cute. This photograph didn't come out very well, so I believe I took another photograph on my my real camera, and I did include it somewhere in the back. But yeah, I just kind of like the look of this, and like I just embellished them, and it serves the purpose of having those photos in here, and it's very artistic and very unique, I think. So I love using my Polaroids. I really like how this one turned out. This one is the old bookshop that I went to. It's called Braddle's Bookshop, and it's like next to the actual bookshop, there's like an alleyway where they have all these shelves and racks of books that you can get. They're all, not all of them are vintage books, but a lot of them are, and they're all secondhand books, and they're in the alleyway. They're priced between $1 to $5, and so I loved looking around that. I did bring home 2 books, obviously to use to make journals. So more journaling. This is one of the photographs that I took at the public gardens. Beautiful, beautiful. I took so many photographs there. A lot of them you'll see that I printed out when I got home. They're further in the back. I like passed through this park like every day, I think. It was so pretty. And then for the pages where I have the Polaroids, I did do a little bit of mixed media like behind them. So I would like use inks and paints and stuff and then layer my papers and then the Polaroid, and then I embellished with like the little scrapbooking books that I brought with me, and of course tons of stickers. I sat in the park in the public gardens and drew a willow tree. There was tons of willow trees. I'm absolute crap at like drawing and painting like on the spot, but I did attempt like a watercolor willow tree. And then this, I just kind of put spare bits of paper and stuff just to make like a little collage, and I really liked how that looked, and so I just kind of left it like that. And so this is what I mean by art journal. Like this is something that I would do in my art journal, just kind of do like a little collage page. Obviously this is more artsy, and then this is more of like memory keeping. So this book was like a mixture of all of those things, and I actually really loved how it turned out. More journaling, and then I used this doily to mark off the new day. This, I did, I think 2 of these are a couple, no, I think I did 2. These are what I like to call found poetry. So this is an old book page that I just kind of highlighted the words that's like jumped out at me, and I created my own poem, and then I embellished. So I do this a lot in all my journals, and so like I was treating this like an art journal, and so I made sure to do one of these when I got to the hotel. And so this page I would like conveniently just skip over until I got to the hotel and can actually use my paints, because I found that there weren't a lot of places where I felt comfortable sitting like inside of like a cafe or whatever and like taking out all my supplies. And I think it's because I don't know, it like I feel like when I went into a place to like eat, I just wanted to eat and then leave. And I think it's a COVID thing for me. Like, unlike New York, there aren't very strict rules in Boston when it comes to like COVID and vaccination and showing proof and all that stuff to eat in places. I think they have just like you have to wear your mask and that's about it. But a lot of places that I went to were like really, really crowded and things like that. And I'm pretty sure there's like no law for that. But anyway, I didn't feel very comfortable. And so when I did sketch, it was in the park. Outside, I would pick a bench. No one was around me. It was actually nice, the weather, but it was kind of cool. And of course, I went during the week, so people were working, and so it was like it just felt better and felt more comfortable. Some places where if I had like a little spot to myself, because obviously I was eating by myself at these restaurants, then I would take out my journal and do a little bit of journaling. But my idea of going to cafes and journaling just did not happen, only because of that, of just kind of, each city is different, obviously, and all these things, but I just didn't feel comfortable. So I would take things back to my room and do them. So that was one. I think both of these where I use paints, I would do it in my room. And so this is an example of me printing out a photograph. So this photograph, I took it at this museum, what's it called? The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and it's like the courtyard area. It's so pretty. I took this on my camera. I did take a Polaroid, but it came out so dark because the museum is actually like really dark. Like the lighting of it is really dark, and it's on purpose. I was listening to the audio tour I was walking around, and it's on purpose that the lighting is like that. It's supposed to give off like an intimate feel and all this stuff. I don't know. Anyway, my Polaroid came out really dark, and so I kind of left this spot and like this spot as well, and I skipped it over, and I'm just like, you know what? When I get home, I will print out the photograph in like a faux Polaroid style, and I'll just finish it up at home. And so this is an example of that. Another photograph of the park. And so yeah, this museum was pretty cool. I actually walked to it. It was like an hour walk from where I was staying, which was fine because when I travel, I try to walk as much as possible. Like, it's okay to take like mass transit or like their metro or whatever, but if I see that the city is walkable, I will walk it. I mean, even if the city is not walkable, I will still try to walk it, because that's how I learn like where I am. Like that's basically how I learned the like kind of map of this city. So like literally after that first day of me walking around everywhere, the next few days were really fine with me figuring out where I'm going, because I did a lot of the walking that first full day, and like I already had pictures in my mind of, okay, this is where I need to go next. I also have a photographic memory, and so it really helps to kind of see landmarks, and I kind of like landmark them in my head, you know, kind of like when you put a pin down on Google and that's how you recall where things are. That's pretty much what I do in my mind. And so after a while, I didn't have to use Google Maps to help me get around, because it's like, oh, I remember that. I have to go this way. And so, yeah, so I ended up walking here, and it was a long walk, but I walk like hour-long walks all the time here in New York, and so it wasn't bad. I liked actually walking that way. It was my first time walking in that direction. I think it's more, like the Fenway direction, and I totally got lost. I did pass so many colleges, which was cool. But yeah, anyway, so I went on a Thursday, and since I went at the start of the month, it was free after 3, and so I took advantage of that. And surprisingly, there was people there, but I thought it would be like more crowded because those time entry tickets were all like sold out, but it wasn't when I went. I got there, I think about 4:30 was my time slot. And so did a lot of journaling about that in here. One of the things I actually drew this, there was a little prompt where it was like a blind contour. I didn't do that, the fact that they encourage you to take out your stuff, and like they actually have pencils there too, and like sketch and draw. So I drew this. It was like a little, I think it's like the fountain. It's like in the fountain area. On my long walk, I did stop off at this little boutique, and I got 2 things for myself. Spent way too much money there, but it's fine. This is from one of the pamphlets that I picked up, one of the exercises. I actually drew this on the back of this where they tell you to draw it. I just kind of cut it out and glued it in here. But yeah, I don't have a lot of ephemera, if you've noticed, like found ephemera from the actual place. Again, I think that is a pandemic thing, that they're not actually handing out like paper stuff. So I just kind of got things where I can get them. This is a frame, so I drew this frame based on a photograph that I took in the actual museum. This museum I honestly had no idea about. I just went on like Google and said, you know, cool things to do in Boston or whatever, and this was one only because of the courtyard. It's so pretty, and a lot of people, it's like off the beaten path sort of place to visit, and I'm like, it's a museum, might as well check it out. But this museum has like a really cool story. So a lot of the galleries, this is this woman's collection, Isabella Stewart Gardner. This is her collection, so she's no longer alive, but the museum is based on her collection of artwork that she collected in her life. And so it's a lot of European paintings, Dutch paintings, a lot of old European furniture and stuff like that. I believe she was American. But yeah, it's, you know, that to me it's very boring art. It's more of like the oh my god, at the Met there's that section, it's the decorative art, the European decorative arts. That's what this museum was, thrown in with a bunch of like European style paintings. She was obsessed with Italy, and so it was a lot of Italian vibes and feels. It's fine. I grew up at the Met, and sort of like seeing this again is just like, for me, it's kind of boring after a while. I think that's why I kind of like more of contemporary art. I think it's a little bit more thought-provoking and engaging. But the story behind this museum, oh my goodness. So in a lot of the galleries, there are empty frames on the walls. And these empty frames signify the 13 paintings and pieces of artwork that were stolen from this museum during a heist in 1990. So kind of recent. I'm saying this as an old person. Kind of recent, 1990. But yeah, there was a heist at this museum in 1990, and 13 paintings were stolen. A lot of them were, I think, Rembrandts. But so they have these like ornate frames that are still hanging on the walls, and those are the original frames that the paintings were in, because the thieves, they literally just cut the paintings out of the frames. Isn't that insane? It's like, I don't even know. Anyway, so this heist is still unsolved. It's this unsolved mystery case, and it's still open. They're still actively like searching for these 13 paintings. It's so insane. I did not know any of this until I got to the museum, and they have QR codes everywhere, and so you can actually listen as you walk through the rooms to the tours. And I believe it was the Dutch room where most of the paintings there, I think like 3 or 4 of them were stolen from that room specifically, and that's where they go in depth about the heist. That was just insane to me. And like the reason why they still keep the frames up is they said something about preserving Isabella's like vision for the room, to have those paintings there, like have the frames there to signify that's where these paintings were. And so a lot of them have like kind of fabric or some sort of textile behind them. They're not just like black, you know. And so I kind of did that here to sort of just represent that story. This is from one of the pamphlets, and I believe that's what I end up writing about in depth here in my journaling here, was that heist. So that was pretty cool. Like, I think that was the coolest thing about this museum, to be quite honest. And this beautiful courtyard, very reminiscent of like, kind of like that Gothic Spanish sort of vibe. And I think she was going for more of like an Italian sort of thing, because again, she was really sort of enamored with Italy. And I think particularly Venice, but this definitely looks like Barcelona to me, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And like, it's a garden, except none of the way that the room is created, none of the plants are actually planted here. They're all in little pots, and so they're changed out periodically in the room. So every time you go, it's going to be a different set of plants, which I thought was really neat too. Anyway, so that was that day. That's what I mostly did on that day. This is just a cutout, and again, just plain kind of art journaly, or maybe more of a junk journaly type thing, just slapping things into this journal. Friday, more journaling. I actually did a lot of shopping on Friday, so I bought a bunch of Winnie the Pooh like tops and stuff from Primark. I believe there is a Primark in New York. Have not been to it yet. I think it's in Queens, and if it's not in Queens, it's in Brooklyn. It's some far off place. It's probably in one of the malls in Queens. I haven't been to it yet. I really would like to go, because they usually have Disney, like a Disney section where you can get Disney things. And I know Primark is, I think, primarily a UK brand, I think. Anyway, there was one right there in Boston, and so I went into it and I bought me a lot of things. And so I have like I think I have 2 or 3 of these tags just in the journal. Just like, yep, this is what happened. This place, I think I journaled a lot about this day. Went shopping. I did eat brunch at this cafe, which was, oh my god, insanely packed. And when I say insanely packed, I mean like it was filled to the brim. I had never been in a place like this in like 2 years. Like, this was like the before times packed. I sat at the bar, which was fine, and I basically only took off my mask to eat. By the time they sat me, though, it was sort of like past the kind of brunch hour, so it did empty out. But oh my goodness, just waiting there outside and seeing like all those people in there was insane. But the food was amazing, so I can understand why it would be so crowded. And of course, they don't really have restrictions there anymore, so that's also a thing. But I would love to go back, maybe once things kind of settle down, and eat here. Or I found out that Fridays aren't like the best times to go. Best time to go is between Tuesday and Thursday, because apparently the weekends and Mondays get really crowded. So I'm journaling about that. I'm journaling about my shopping. I don't think I had much left. And so I wanted to use up all the little pieces that I brought with me. And so I think a lot of this moving forward is journaling, me catching up on actually telling the story of my travels, and like me trying to figure out a way to add all the other bits into this journal. And so Saturday was technically the day that I came home. My train was in the late afternoon, so I did have like the whole morning after I checked out to like walk around, and I did take a really long walk to the station from where I was. And I ended up taking like a different route so I can just see a different part of Boston. But I decided to do a lot of catch up, because I believe when I was journaling here, I journaled about all of this, but I didn't journal about me retracing my steps and going back to different places that I really liked. So I did some of that journaling here, and just like my thoughts of like retracing my steps. And I am so enamored with how the homes look in Boston. When I came home, I painted this in. I had drawn it out, but when I came home, I painted it and everything and inked it, and then I just put the Saturday there. And so I think a lot of this is like going back and journaling how I walked back through Beacon Hill and the Back Bay area, and then about the homes. And so that's why you see a lot of like the homes about. They're kind of like these areas, like the homes kind of look like townhouses slash brownstones. They're like not really brownstones, but they're not really townhouses. They're actually buildings, but they just have a very European feel to them. And I think that's what appealed to me the most, because okay, I come from New York. I live in New York City, and if you've been to New York, everything is just like buildings. It's just buildings just to be buildings, to have people in it or to have offices in it. And so there's not really much thought to like architecture and like, I guess, the aesthetic of it. And that's what I really love about Europe, is that it has such a deep, rich history in the actual architecture of all the buildings. And they're beautiful. You have some beautiful buildings that are like worth like looking at and like taking photographs of and sketching and all the things. And here, not so much. Sometimes you find some really cool homes that look like they've been around for like ages, but a lot of it is brand new, and a lot of the same. Not to say that a lot of European buildings are not same-y looking, but for the most part, they all have like a history, and that's what I really love about Europe. And I've always wanted to like move to Europe because of that. Boston is probably the most European city in America that I've ever been to. I am pretty sure there are other cities that have European influences, because obviously America, I guess that's why they call this New England, because it does look, I thought personally that Boston was a mixture of Brussels and London. And that's just for me being an outsider going to Brussels and London and then going into Boston and be like, I've been here before. This looks very familiar. A lot of it looks like Belgium or Brussels to me, and then bits of it you can tell were British. I mean, it's Boston. There's a history there with the British. And so that was like the feel, but I loved it so much. I loved it so much, and like it was just very pretty. Like, I really want to move there. And so this is me talking about the homes. This is me talking about wanting to move there, and then doing research and finding out that it's hella expensive to live in like those areas of Boston. Like more expensive. Like rent is insane in New York, but at least there's like affordable housing. I don't think there's affordable housing in Boston. I'm not sure. I'm not from there. This is just me kind of doing research and trying to find out that information. But I'm just like, oh my God, I can't afford New York. I definitely can't afford Boston by myself. But it would be such a lovely place to live because it's so pretty. It's so pretty. It's kind of like right up my alley, I guess you can say. So yeah, so this is more of me recapping my like back tracing walk, and so a lot of these photographs are ones that I printed out at home, and so you can see like the quality of it. They're much different than the ones that come straight from the Polaroid camera. This, of course, is what Google calls the Robin Williams bench in the public gardens. This is the bench where Robin Williams and Matt Damon sat when they filmed that scene in Good Will Hunting, and so I took a photograph of it. And I think it's very pretty. Another squirrel, and I will talk about the squirrels in a minute because there is a squirrel photo here. This is, again, it was one of the streets that inspired this, with those beautiful, beautiful buildings. And then, again, another picture of the park, and then the leaves were changing, so it was very pretty. Very, very pretty. And then, of course, a squirrel. This whole journaling section here is me journaling about the squirrels in the public garden. So when I was walking through the commons and when I was walking through the public gardens, I would see signs everywhere that says, do not feed the wildlife. And then they put a reason there why do not feed the wildlife. And it's like, fine, won't feed the wildlife. But like, oh my God, these squirrels, they legit have no chill. I was just walking around and you can see a bunch of squirrels like going up to people who are like eating, or even if they weren't eating, just going up to them and like kind of poking through their bags if they could. Like I had one squirrel when I was sitting drawing that willow tree, if I can find it, wherever the willow tree, I had a packet of M&Ms in my bag. and my bag was open because that's where I had like my art supplies, and I was kind of pulling them out and drawing, and like I just heard like rustling next to me, and lo and behold, there's this squirrel in my bag like trying to get at my M&Ms, and I'm just like, oh my god, these squirrels have no chill, and like I'm shooing it away and it's not going away. It's like it legit was not afraid of me. It was like, yo bro, give me some M&Ms, and they're M&Ms peanuts. And naturally, usually what I do when I'm in Central Park, I would give a squirrel an M&M, and I love how they eat them. They literally crack open the shell and like just ignore the shell. They drop them. They drop the shell and they crack open like the chocolate part, and usually they drop the chocolate too, just to get at the peanut on the inside. It's very interesting if you've ever seen a squirrel eat an M&M. But yeah, like just there, and like it was there. It was just like, I'm chilling here. You're gonna give me some of this, and so I managed to shoo it away like a little further, not far enough, but like out of my backpack, so I could close my backpack, and it was just there. It was just there staring at me like, yo, hi, and I was just like, this is the cutest. I thought it was the cutest thing. So I got a lot of photographs of the squirrels because they are just not afraid of you, and it's crazy. They're just not afraid of you. And you know, I guess coming from New York, we have very interesting wildlife here, but like nothing nearly as friendly as this. Because I think the squirrels here, they know that we have food and they know that we can give them food, but they're still very much afraid of us. These guys are not. And so I had to journal about that because it was just too cute. And like this little photograph of this little guy, cute. So here, this is where I have my little color palette for my journal, so I left it there in the little tuck spot. And then here I have another found poetry that I did with a book page, obviously. And so again, just kind of the downtime when I'm in my hotel room, and just I put something on, watching a movie, and just doing a little bit of art. This one I just kind of collaged with a bunch of stuff, and then these are lyrics to a song that I was listening to. On the train, I realized that Ali and AJ had dropped like 3 new tracks, like 3 singles, and so one of them was called Am I Alright? And so that one I just kept playing over and over again, and so I put the lyrics here. And then this is another little collage thing that I did. It was actually covering up some ink stains that went through, because I did do this sort of mixed media collage thing in this part, and like the Liquitex, this is a printable, and so it kind of went through and kind of bled, and so I just kind of put the die cut here, and then I put these sentiments that I had for tea all on this page, and then I wrote about how I didn't drink tea in Boston because Bostonians don't drink tea, which I thought was funny. I mean, I'm pretty sure they drink tea, but like I couldn't find like actual like tea places that weren't bubble tea, and I'm just like, I thought like the whole history here is that you guys were tea drinkers and you threw the tea into the harbor, but apparently you can still throw tea into the harbor, but you just can't find a nice place to drink it. There was a tea house that I didn't end up going to, so next time I will want to go to the tea house because it looked really cool. I think it was called like Alice's Tea House or something like that, Abigail's Tea House, something like that. But yeah, I just thought it was funny, and so I had all this stuff with tea, and again, I wanted to use up all the bits that I brought with me, and so made a little collage about tea, and then wrote about how I did not have tea. And then again, this artsy mixed media thing. And then this was, I think, the Paul Revere statue park area, and that was this photograph. I think that's one of the last photographs that I printed out at home. And then what I tend to do in my journals towards the end of my trip is I usually do a top 5 or a top 10. If the trip is like a big, massive, like month-long trip, I do a top 10. If it's a little shorter trip, I do a top 5. And it's basically just my top 5 things that I enjoyed. And so that's what I did here. I did like a little collage with some stickers because I had a lot of stickers left over from what I took with me, and so I just kind of embellished my page that way, and then did my journaling. And then this is, again, I had all these little torn scraps from like actually doing my journal. And so I just kind of glued them all to this page. This is that page with the lyrics. I actually wrote out the lyrics on vellum, and I don't think I actually used them. And so I just glued that piece there. And I think that's the last page of me doing anything. These are the pages that are left over. This was my room number receipt ticket thing. I put the sticker there, and then I think I put a die cut on this doily. And that is my little journal. It's super chunky. I really enjoyed how this turned out. It doesn't really lay closed or anything. It's awesome. I love when you finish a journal, but it's substantial too. It has like all this stuff in it, and it feels all textile and stuff like that. I love it, love it, love it. Anyway, that was the long flip through of my Boston journal. I really hope you enjoyed this look at this little book, and thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!